Feeling lost, confused, or depressed? You're not alone. The Homebase team is here for you and your family with free, life-changing care. Visit homebase.org.
This program is furnished by Ask the Experts.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Welcome to Ask the Experts radio show, proudly sponsored by board-certified family law attorney Tina Lewert of Lewert Law, LLC. Sit back for the next half hour as host Steve-O interviews top experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Steve-O offers such educational topics as community association law, family law, chiropractic care, employment law, healthcare law, and public insurance adjusting. Interviews by top experts in their field. And now, here's your host, Steve-O.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm sorry. I've already had 3 shows today. Good evening, South Florida. Welcome to Ask the Experts. Yes, we've got 8 different shows across the country, all Ask the Experts. And sometimes I forget where I'm at, but we're here live. This is not a tape show. We're here live in South Florida. Our show is Ask the Experts. We're on with you every Thursday night. Notice that, Freddie, I got to really think hard sometimes. 6 to 7 drive time every Thursday. And I'm going to tell probably one of the greatest producers in the world, Freddie Santori. Tonight is our 7th year anniversary. 7 years, Freddie, that you've had to put up with me. Anyhow, welcome to the show. We have got 2 great guests with us tonight. The first one is actually, I'm going to call it Estate Planning 101, because the questions we're going to go over tonight are really for people that have not made any plans at all. And I got to tell you, and Freddie knows this, we've had a couple friends of ours die from COVID. And look, you just never know when you're going to go. And to not be prepared is not very smart. So our expert tonight, attorney Natalia Belavacqua, is going to educate you on getting prepared for all this. And we're going to start off with the small things like wills, but good evening, Natalia.
Hi, Steve. Nice to see you. Congratulations on your anniversary. 7 years is a big deal.
7 years. Gosh, I cannot believe it. Anyway, tell us about your firm, Natalia.
So I'm an estate planning, probate, and guardianship attorney. That's all I do. I don't do traffic tickets, personal injury, bankruptcy, none of those things. I am solely focused on working with families that are either preparing to give an inheritance or receiving an inheritance, or are dealing with an issue of incapacity of a family member.
Natalia, I got to tell you, I've been doing this for a long time now, and we work with attorneys across the country. I love the fact that you just concentrate on one area of law, because you know as well as I do, there's a lot of attorneys out there that try to do 6 or 7 areas of law, and you pinpoint one area. Now, estate planning, there's elder law, there's guardianship, there's wills, there's probate, but you stay within your comfort zone, your area. And I think it's wonderful that you do that.
I think it makes my life easier, and I think it makes me a better attorney, being focused on one thing rather than trying to learn everything.
I totally agree with you. So tonight, and we already started getting calls already, people who wanted your phone number. That's a good way to start off the show. But let's start off with something easy like, what is a will?
A will is a document that you put together to let everyone know who you want to get your stuff when you die. And that stuff could be anything. It could be $10 in your bank account, or it could be a multi-million dollar business, a home, a car, anything that you want to pass on, a will is a way to formalize your wishes.
And to tell you, you don't have to be a millionaire to have a will. A lot of people think you've got to have a lot of money to have a will. That's not true.
Not at all. And actually, if you don't have a lot of money, then your family does not have a lot of money to waste on court fees and attorney fees. So if you want for your family to receive your inheritance as inexpensively and as smoothly as possible, talking talking to an attorney like myself is a great way to accomplish that.
Absolutely. I got to tell you that I was shocked when the singer Prince did not have a will. With all of his money and all of his managers around him, he did not have a will, and neither did Larry King. Do you know Larry King wrote his will basically on a napkin?
I think there's some hurdles, some emotional hurdles that people have to get over before they come to see an estate planning attorney. Um, I know my father-in-law, for example, he's superstitious. He thinks he signs any type of documents and then he's going to die tomorrow. I, you have to respect other people's beliefs, but we know that, your time to go is when it's your time to go, and only God above is in charge of when that time is. So, but some people do have to get over that, whatever's holding them back.
You're absolutely right, and we're not going to be around forever. But with COVID, you never know, and I think people should really start getting serious about it. Is there a certain age group that people should start thinking about getting a will?
I would say that an 18-year-old, as soon as you turn 18, you should go talk to an attorney. Whether or not you need a will, that's a question of what your family is like, what you have. Most 18-year-olds don't have anything, but some do. And it depends on what your relationship is like with your family. And it also depends what you're doing in life. Do you have a bank account? Are you going to school? A will is not the only document that people need. They're conversations that need to be have that for young people are probably not very easy to have, because we don't think about these things until something happens, until we see something happen to a family member, or a friend's parent passes away, or something that jolts us into action. But anyone who is 18 or older can definitely make life easier for their loved ones by just going to talk to someone. Doesn't mean that you have to sign anything, doesn't mean you have to pay anything. Go talk to an attorney.
Once, like yourself, and then once you have a will, how often should they come back to you to look at the will again?
People should always come back when there are major life changes, a birth, a death, a divorce, move to a different state. And sometimes no changes need to be made, but it's a good idea to review certain documents. I'll give you an example. I have, obviously, in Florida, we have a lot of people that are coming from all over the place to retire, and they have their estate planning documents from wherever, and Florida will honor and respect the documents from other states. However, if you have a friend of yours from, say you're from New York, and a friend of yours from New York is nominated as an executor of your estate, that might work in New York. In Florida, it will not work, because in Florida, in order to be an executor, you have to be either a resident of the state of Florida, or you have to be closely related to the person that passed away. So if you move to Florida and you die in Florida, your friend from New York is neither a Florida resident nor are they related to you. So therefore, they would not be able to be an executor of your estate. And this would be a good opportunity to think of who do you trust to take care of things for you, and maybe make some changes.
Well, I want to talk about advanced healthcare directives, but before I do that, um, and if people who've been listening to the show for years, I normally don't do this. I got to tell you something. Um, Reading your website, listening to you do your show, you really do care about your clients. I mean, I'm not saying other attorneys don't, but you really care about them. And that is so important, especially when you're talking about estate planning.
I really do. And my clients, for, I can't even say for the most part, all of them are wonderful people. They're trying to do right by their family. They are taking care of what they're supposed to take care of. And I mean, they're people like you and I, and people are interesting and people have special qualities about them. And I feel like I have whatever you want to call it, experience, education, talent to do certain things. And I'm very happy to use what I have to help people that sometimes come to me not in the best time in their life.
Yes. Well, let's talk about advanced healthcare directives and the consequences of not having them.
I think that everyone should think back to a young lady named Terry Schiavo.
Oh
She
yeah.
was all over the news, what's been 10, 15 years now.
Yes.
And not every case is this dramatic, but I believe that family spent close to $100,000 in legal fees, battling out between the husband and the parents as to what to do. And never mind the money, most of us don't have $100,000 to spend on this type of court case. But just imagine the heartbreak that you're dealing with as a parent when this happened to your child. Imagine the heartbreak that you're dealing with as a spouse, as a child. So, whenever there's an emergency situation, anything that can be done to just take a little bit of stress off of people is a very worthwhile pursuit. So, we were talking about 18-year-olds earlier today. That would be an incredibly important document for everyone to have because you never know what's going to happen. You don't know what's around the corner, and you may never need it, and you may never have a medical emergency in your entire life, and that's great. But if you do and you have that piece of paper and your family knows that you have that piece of paper, then you have just made somebody's life a little easier during a very, very difficult time that nobody wants to, that it's a situation that nobody wants to find themselves in.
I've never sat. Well, I planned out my estate planning. It was very tough because I'm talking about my death and planning after my death, and it was a strange feeling, but it has to be done.
I think when you're thinking about your death, the important thing for the person that's thinking about it, you need to prepare yourself spiritually because death is coming one way or another. And once you go, none of the stuff that you have, cars, houses, none of it matters, right? What matters is the
Right.
people that are left behind. And how do you want them to be left behind? I mean, obviously, first of all, we don't want to leave our children behind, for example, right? But inevitably, when they do, how do you want them to feel? Do you want them to feel that you left them with a mess? Or do you want them to feel like you really cared enough about them to, talk to an attorney a few times and sign some papers? And now there is clarity. There is no arguments between the family. And just in general, everybody knows what to do, and everybody knows that they were cared enough about for someone to take the steps to do this for them.
Well, this is a fast 15 minutes. We have to go to break. Natalia, give everybody your phone number and your website address. I just bragged on your website.
I'll skip the website because it's my whole last name. But my phone number is 561-877-1515.
Okay. And I got to tell you, I don't know, whoever did your website did a wonderful job. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we have so much to talk about. And one of the areas is an area very close to my heart about disabled children when they turn 18. We're going to go to break. We're here with attorney Natalia Bevilacqua. This is the Ask the Expert Show. I'm your host, Steve. I will be right back.
Bevilacqua law, thoughtfully and intentionally, limits its practice to interrelated areas of probate, estate planning, and guardianship. You've worked hard for what you have. You love your family. Do not leave your assets stuck in court. Do not leave your family dealing with delays and red tape. Benjamin Franklin said, "Failing to plan is planning to fail." Call Bevilacqua Law today to schedule a consultation to discuss your family, your goals, your concerns, and your wishes. They make this a painless process that will leave you knowing that you protected your family. Your family will feel secure and loved, and you can feel at ease, knowing you did the very best thing for them. Call today, 561-877-1515. Again, 561-877-1515.
We are back now with more of the Ask the Experts radio show, proudly sponsored by board-certified family law attorney Tina Lewert of Lewert Law LLC, covering South Florida.
And we are back. This is the Ask the Expert Show. I'm your host, Steve O. I just got a tweet from a listener, and when I opened it up, I don't know why I was surprised about it, but it's telling me that we're on Facebook right now, we're on Twitter right now, our show, and so besides the 4 radio stations that we're on, we're also on a lot of the platforms, so you can watch our show. So we're here with attorney Natalia Bevilacqua, and she strictly does estate planning. Power of attorney is very important, isn't it?
I say it's the most important document because one way or another, your family will receive your inheritance, whether they fight over it or not. But power of attorney gives another person ability to sign on your behalf in regards to your banking, your finances, your home, your property, your insurance, anything that you could sign for. Power of attorney can give power to another person to sign for you. And the reason that this is important is because there's only 2 ways out of here. You're either going to die or you're going to first become incapacitated and then die. So when a person becomes incapacitated, and that could happen for a variety of reasons. It could be an accident, it could be just normal part of aging, Alzheimer's, dementia, things like that. So when a person becomes incapacitated, they can no longer manage their property. They can't, if they need to move, they don't have the legal capacity to sell their house and move into a facility, or sell a big house and downgrade to a smaller house, or they can't write their own checks anymore. So it's so incredibly important that there is someone designated in your power of attorney to act on your behalf in the event of your incapacity. And your incapacity could be short term. You could just simply be in a hospital for a month. And in the meantime, nothing's getting paid. Meaning your bills are not getting paid. Or your incapacity could be long term to where you're declining. And the only alternative to having a power of attorney is your family going to court to get a guardianship over you. And guardianship is a very invasive, very privacy violating and expensive court process. That's, as far as of all my guardianship clients, I've never had one say, "Oh, this is great. I hope to do this
Yeah.
again." So if you can have a simple document, power of attorney, that is properly written, not a template from somewhere, but a properly written power of attorney that actually gives the appropriate powers to a person that you trust, then you can really save your family a whole lot of grief and a whole lot of money in a situation if it ever comes down to it.
God, Elaine, that's so perfect because it leads me into my next question, which we've talked about on the show before. I had a very close friend of mine that her her daughter was autistic, and I was shocked when I saw the statistics. 1 out of 10 children that are born are autistic, and here's what happens, and usually it's a big surprise. So if you have an autistic child at home, you should, I mean, if they're in that 17, 16, 17-year age, you should definitely contact Natalia because when they turn 18, this is when guardianship kicks in. And you are right, it is so tough. It's something that we did it the wrong way. We tried to handle it ourselves. I would tell anybody, don't ever do that. Hire an attorney to do it. It was a tough
This is
road,
a
Natalia.
I'm sure it was. This is a special type of guardianship. It's called Guardianship Advocacy, and it's specifically designed to assist usually parents of children with developmental disabilities for when those children turn 18. It's a simplified guardianship, and this is the only type of guardianship in Florida that does not require the use of an attorney. But as you said, it's not the way to go because there are so many rules and standards that we have in guardianship court and so many documents that need to be submitted that it's overwhelming. And if you're already taking care of a child that needs your help, sometimes 24/7, whatever you're in any circumstances, being a parent is hard. So taking
Yes,
on learning on a whole new legal process is not something that I would personally recommend. And a
I'm
lot of
telling
times
you, you're
parents are
right.
very upset and even angry about the fact that, you've been taking care of this child. I mean, this is your child. What closer relationship do you have in life than, your spouse and your children? And this is your child that's turning 18 and can't manage for themselves, make healthcare decisions, make educational decisions, and all of a sudden you are prohibited to make those decisions for your child because now they're a legal adult. And guardianship advocacy is not a terribly painful process. It's a fairly smooth process that is very common, and at least where I practice, judges are pretty wonderful, and they're not trying to get anyone. They really are trying to help these parents continue to take care of their children.
A lot of paperwork involved.
A
Every year
lot of
you have
paperwork.
to write, keep track of everything you've done.
Yes, you do, and it's good and bad. I mean, on one hand, it's a big burden to put on parents, but on the other hand, someone has to look out for these children, well, for these adults that are under guardianship, making sure that they are well taken care of.
Natalia, oh, I got to tell you, you should have been a professor. You explain everything so well, and the show just goes so smoothly. I had so many more questions to ask you. Let's give everybody your phone number.
It's 561-877-1515.
And if you listen to our commercial, we're going to go to commercial break before our next show. you will hear Natalia's number again. She is a incredibly estate planning attorney that really cares about her clients, and this is all she does. And we're so lucky to have her. Natalia will be back with us again next month. Thank you so much. You're a wonderful guest.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we'll talk to you next month. Have a happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Let's go to break. When we come back, we've got our healthcare show with attorney Jackie Grady. We'll be right back.
Bevilacqua law, thoughtfully and intentionally, limits its practice to interrelated areas of probate, estate planning, and guardianship. You've worked hard for what you have. You love your family. Do not leave your assets stuck in court. Do not leave your family dealing with delays and red tape. Benjamin Franklin said, "Failing to plan is planning to fail." Call Bevilacqua Law today to schedule a consultation to discuss your family, your goals, your concerns, and your wishes. They make this a painless process that will leave you knowing that you protected your family. Your family will feel secure and loved, and you can feel at ease, knowing you did the very best thing for them. Call today, 561-877-1515. Again, 561-877-1515.
Grady Legal PA is Jacqueline Grady has assisted businesses and employees in navigating the various federal and state laws governing discrimination, overtime pay, and fiduciary duty under healthcare plans. If your health insurance premiums are exploding, deductibles increasing, and are still receiving surprise medical bills, contact Grady Legal PA as a high percentage of bills contain incorrect or fraudulent charges. If you want an evaluation of whether there has been a violation of discrimination or wage laws, contact Grady Legal today at 754-333-0313, 754-333-0313. We are back now with more of the Ask the Experts radio show, proudly sponsored by board-certified family law attorney Tina Lewert of Lewert Law LLC, covering South Florida.
Hey, good evening. We are live. You know, a lot of the talk shows are tape shows. Our show is live. We're with you every Thursday from 6 to 7, drive time. And we bring in some of the greatest experts in the areas of health, legal, financial, and home improvement. We're waiting on our next guest to come on, who is Jackie Grady. Oh, there she is. There she is. Tonight we're going to be talking. This is the greatest topic. We, in 7 years, we're talking about, Jackie, this is our 7th year anniversary of doing our show. And we have never had, with all the markets we're in, anybody do healthcare law. And the more we've done your show, the more I've learned. It's like, you know, whether you're a business or an individual, what you do is so important. But good evening.
Hey, Steve, nice to see you again.
It's good to see you, Jackie. Tell everybody, first of all, about your firm.
Yeah, so my firm name is Grady Legal. We have our main office in Deerfield Beach and a satellite office in Vero Beach, and we help people fight surprise medical bills or deal with their health insurance companies, whether they're covered by their employer-sponsored insurance or if they get insurance through the healthcare marketplace.
Jackie, I want you to tonight give everybody an example from the employer's end of a case you've done, and give everybody an example of an individual case you've done.
Absolutely. So we actually assist employers with their healthcare benefits and finding where there are sometimes what we call ghost claims, where claims will hit an employer's, spreadsheet, if you will. And those claims is what causes the premiums to go up. And sometimes those claims actually are non-existent. So we've actually had cases where we have gone in and talked to employees and tried to find out if the claims that have been made were accurate. And we have found just about every single time that there are always claims that either did not exist or had substantial errors in them. So that's one thing we've done with the employers. For individuals, we would call more surprise medical bills, where somebody goes in and they think they have it covered under their health insurance, or maybe they pre-negotiate a payment, and then after a procedure they find out, they start getting these bills, and they're surprised by them because they weren't expecting them.
Jackie, remember I shared with you that I got a hip replacement, and I went to the hospital, and it's Cleveland Clinic. It's a good hospital, but I went there and I went through all the procedures that they got me ready for the surgery. They got my insurance, and I went and had the surgery. And 2 months later, I get a bill for $55,000.
Wow.
And the reason they gave me that was that this was a pre-existing condition. And so first of all, I try to fight it myself. Folks, don't ever do that. You need to hire Jackie to do that for you, because first of all, I didn't even know there was a healthcare attorney. If I'd known about Jackie, I would have hired her, but you're allowed to, I guess, write them and tell them that why you think the amount is wrong. And they wrote me back when they told me that I had a pre-existing condition. It was from visiting a doctor on my knee. Had nothing to do with my hip. But
see, that's a perfect example.
It's hard to fight.
It is,
But
and
this is
those
what
are the
you
cases
do.
they'll try to find any reason to deny coverage, and they'll use something speculative, from years ago to try to say it was a pre-existing condition. It's one of those issues that even if you knew that, right? Let's say you did have a pre-existing condition and your insurance wasn't going to pay it, it still doesn't cost $55,000. I mean, we have been led to believe that healthcare is really expensive, and it's not.
So, but why would they tell me before the surgery? What is the thinking that goes in with the hospital?
So this is what we fight every single day, and we tell everybody that when they call us for the first time, we give a free 15-minute consult. We'll say, expect the unexpected, because the healthcare system has become so compartmentalized. They have intentionally made it confusing. So you don't know what necessarily the hospital has discussed with your insurance. You don't know what forms have been submitted. And I've had people, there was a case where a woman was approved, right? She was going to give birth and she was approved for the procedure, but she ended up going into labor early. And because it was on a different date than what was agreed upon, her insurance decided not to cover it. And so you don't know what the hospital has necessarily agreed to with the insurance carrier, and you're kind of left out of the loop. But guess what? When it comes time for payment, you're the one that gets the bill.
Exactly. And you're going up against insurance companies, and they're tough. And that's why you should have somebody representing like Jackie. I guess the point I want to make is, do not try to handle this yourself.
Yeah, what we find out a lot is people will call and they'll be excited because they're offered a 10 or 20% discount off their bill, and hospitals or providers will offer payment plans, and people will jump on that. But meanwhile, the errors in the billing are so numerous that we typically can get bills cut in half, sometimes 60%. We've even had 75% reductions in bills. So it just goes to show that there's a lot going wrong, and we're able to kind of get to the bottom of it and find out what that problem is.
Tell me what the difference is on being uninsured or underinsured.
Yeah, so obviously uninsured is someone does not have healthcare insurance, right? They don't have it through their employer. For whatever reason, they did not go through the healthcare marketplace, which, a lot of people refer to that as Obamacare, and they don't have
Right.
healthcare insurance. So they would be uninsured. Underinsured are people who have insurance, but those plans are so poor that they basically don't have insurance. And what you will typically see is that the deductible might be $8,200 per
Right.
person. You would have to hit like a $16,000 family deductible. At those rates, you basically don't have insurance for your everyday type of care. Now, maybe it makes sense if you are wealthy, if you have significant medical expenses and you don't mind spending that $8,000 every single year, then that's fine. But most people don't. Most people in America, I don't even think, have $1,000 in savings for an emergency, let alone $8,000 to cover their deductible amounts.
Yeah, I've had friends of mine who complain. It's like, why have insurance? Because I mean, if I get a $10,000 bill, I mean, I can't afford that. Um, but we don't know what goes on behind the scenes like you do. So if someone doesn't have insurance and they know they need a procedure, what do they do?
So, and this is, you can negotiate, right? So, if you're going to say, for you, Steve, you're going to have a hip replacement, you don't have insurance, you can actually shop around, and there's ways to make sure that you're getting the best doctor that has the best history for doing a hip replacement. And you can negotiate that cash price, and some places will even bundle what the whole procedure, which means you're paying the facility charge, the doctor, and the anesthesiologist. Some places you're only paying the facility charge, and then you get a bill later from the surgeon and then from the anesthesiologist, and you didn't realize, oh, I didn't negotiate that. So you can negotiate up front. That's something we assist people in doing, is negotiating those prices up front and making sure that they honor that. We see this all the time where, look, they give an estimate, and we all understand if something unforeseen were to happen while you were having surgery, there would be additional costs. I don't think anybody in their right mind would argue
Right.
that. But when you go in, I'm going to have my right hip replaced. We're going to do anesthesia, and it's going to be one night in the hospital. And that's exactly what happens. There's no complications. There's nothing, that unforeseen that happens. They should honor that price that you had to pay. But we see more and more where all of a sudden they just keep adding on bills, and bills keep coming into people afterwards, even though they've paid upfront for that procedure. And the providers will start using confusing language or fancy language to try to justify these increased costs.
Well, I tell you what upset me the most is, for all this money, the anesthesiologist had a sledgehammer. That's how they were going to put me to sleep. Instead of using staples or stitches, they used Velcro. So that was a cheap way of doing it. Well, I'm kidding you. I'm kidding you.
No, but it's true. We see that a lot where somebody, they'll do a less expensive procedure, right? Like a butterfly instead of a stitch, or glue, like in your case, and yet you still get charged for the stitches. And those are the little things that they sneak in there, and that's what inflates the bills.
What do you do with your clients who have an emergency and can't call you in advance?
Well, that's, yeah, obviously if you're having chest pains, or something's going on, you have to go to the emergency room. Yeah, you don't have time to pre-negotiate. And depending on the severity of what you're going through, you're sort of at that point at the mercy of the hospital, right? Because and this is where we feel like everything's predatory, because you're walking in desperate, right? You are
Right.
not thinking clearly. You don't feel well. So you're stressed. Something's going on. Maybe your family member who brings you, they're stressed because of the situation. So no one reads the documents that they have you signing. And my favorite thing now is they hand you an iPad, and you just click okay, 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 just to get through it. You didn't realize that you just signed saying that you agree to pay all the charges. So what happens in those cases is, once you get those bills, you call us, and we start what we call a bill scrub, and we'll look at those bills, cross-examine them with your or cross-reference them with your medical notes and records, to make sure that what they're billing you is actually what happened.
And it's so tough reading all that stuff, Jackie. I mean, they give you all this paperwork, you're in pain, and you're supposed to read through it and initial and sign it. It's almost like it's a setup. They know this is the best time to hit you.
Well, that's exactly, you're right. And you said it best. It's a setup. And what we tell people is, we're supposed to sign, agree to pay 200% of Medicare. And that's sort of your way of acknowledging that, yes, you're going to pay something. And we tell all of our clients, you've got to pay for medical services. We're not trying to get
Right.
you, free medical care. But there are some standards set forth by the Medicare system for what things should cost. And, we're going to pay that plus 200% to make it a fair transaction. And so we'll tell people, write that down on your signature line when you're going in on an emergency procedure.
Is there anything in new statutes coming up for consumers? I know they've been trying to get where they actually have to put the prices of certain procedures. Is that really going to help at all?
See, that's like putting perfume on a hog. Okay, it looks good, it sounds good, everyone claps that okay, our congressmen and senators did that, but really it's kind of meaningless. Hospitals have to list their most common type of procedures, and they will do that. But there's so many different factors that go into billing. And I don't necessarily argue those different factors, but they abuse those factors. So let me give you an example. Let's say you look and say, I need to go in for I'm over 50, I need to get my colonoscopy. All right, that's a pretty routine procedure. And they'll have that price listed. And let's say they have it listed at $1,200. You think, great, that's what I'll pay. I'll pay the $1,200. You go in, they do the colonoscopy, then all of a sudden you get a bill and it's more than $1,200. Well, there's a couple other things they've done. They've run pathology, right? They've taken out a sample. They had to say it was more. Now it's another $800. And then they'll add on, well, you weren't, the perfectly healthy young person coming in, and we're going to code you at a level 4, which now multiplies that price. So you don't walk out of there with a $1,200 bill. You could be walking out of there with a $4,200 bill.
Wow. If they don't get you one place, they're going to get you somewhere else. We're going to go to break, and I want Jackie to give us her phone number. But listen, it's really important. If you own a business or you're an individual with health insurance, it's really important you write Jackie's number down now, because you never know. And I don't want you going 6 months from now, what was that attorney's name? Just write the number down, put it away. We hope you don't have to use it, but if you do, you have it. Give everybody your phone number, Jackie.
Yeah, 754-333-0313.
And we're going to go to break now. We come back, we have more with attorney Jackie Grady of Grady Legal. We'll be right back.
Grady Legal PA is a boutique labor, employment, and healthcare firm serving clients throughout Florida. Founded by Jacqueline Grady, Grady Legal is helping companies and individuals fight back against the predatory billing schemes of America's healthcare system and insurance carriers. Jacqueline is at the forefront of these emerging legal issues and was featured in the Wall Street Journal for her efforts to combat inflated hospital charges. For over 20 years, Jacqueline Grady has assisted businesses and employees in navigating the various federal and state laws governing discrimination, overtime pay, and fiduciary duty under healthcare plans. If your health insurance premiums are exploding, deductibles increasing, and are still receiving surprise medical bills, contact Grady Legal PA, as a high percentage of bills contain incorrect or fraudulent charges. If you want an evaluation of whether there has been a violation of discrimination or wage laws, contact Grady Legal today at 754-333-0313, 754-333-0313. We are back now with more of the Ask the Experts radio show, proudly sponsored by board-certified family law attorney Tina Lewert of Lewert Law LLC, covering South Florida.
And we are back, going in now into our 8th year. This is our 7-year anniversary, and That's a long time. We're here with you every Thursday night from 6 to 7 drive time, and we get so many emails now, people going, we make the drive home so much easier for them, and that is wonderful. Tonight we have a great expert with us. She's an attorney that handles healthcare. And I put this out and I can't believe I did this. But Jackie, you also do employment law too.
That's how this all got started. I was advising companies on their wellness programs, and they were getting their employees healthier, and but they wasn't translating to better healthcare premiums, and they were getting shoved into worse and worse healthcare plans by their insurance brokers. And once we started looking into why is this happening, is when we started to uncover that there's a lot of funny business going on with insurance companies and providers.
Well, so Jackie, is it possible that you can get multiple bills from a hospital?
It's actually the norm, and a lot of people don't realize that, whether you have insurance or not. And this is one of the big complaints. Somebody will say, I went to my hospital, it's in network, I checked my insurance document. But a lot of anesthesiologists, surgeons, pathologists, radiology, they aren't in network. They're going to be considered out of network providers, and they will bill you separately. And if you ever pay attention to what you sign when you go into the hospital, there is a little, usually a sentence in there that says this: there may be additional charges from other physicians that you're going to get those bills. But they don't highlight that. They don't disclose that up front.
It's amazing. I found that out the hard way, that these groups have other groups within the group, and you'll go, well, I've got your name on the list. No, we don't handle that. I said, but your name is right here. And they go, no, you got to go somewhere else. Why did they do that?
Because they want to make money. I mean, that's at the end of the day, it's a very greedy industry, and it's a shame because our medical professionals are the best in the world, right? I mean, the doctors, the
Yes.
people that are treating you, they don't know what's happening on the billing side, and that's sort of what's sad about it. Is they're the face of it. You're upset with your doctor because you got the bill. A lot of times they don't even realize what's happening. But that was actually the very first case I ever took. I had a lady who went to the hospital. She went to the emergency room, thought she was having a stroke. She was not, but she was admitted for 3 days. And what it's like in a hospital. There's people in and out of that room all the time, nurses and, people rolling in carts and taking measurements of this, that, and the other. And all of a sudden she gets a bill from a neurosurgeon. And she said, I don't even know who this doctor was. And she was told by her insurance carrier, that doctor was out of network. It was your responsibility to call to make sure that doctor was in network.
How would
Laying
you
in the
know that,
hospital.
though?
Yep. How is anyone supposed to know that? And you're sitting there not feeling well. You're scared.
Right.
You're nervous. You're stressful. We all know that you don't sleep well in the hospital. I mean, it's just, and they're expecting you to pull out the phone and call to say, hey, this person just walked my room. Are they covered by my insurance?
That is amazing. What about financial aid? Can people
there is
get
a
financial
voluntary
aid?
quota where they are required to offer financial aid programs. The nonprofit hospitals, state-run hospitals, don't have to do it, and it's supposed to be disclosed. So if you do get a bill, look for that language where you should be able to have a number to call or a website to visit, and you should be able to apply for financial assistance. Now, every hospital is different; they have different standards. So if unless you're poverty line or thereabouts, you're probably not going to qualify. But you should still have the opportunity to see if you qualify to have your entire bill, down to zero or at least part of it.
I tell you, the thing that I just don't understand is someone goes in the hospital and they come out with a $200,000 bill. They had no idea. Even if they knew they were going to have surgery, they had no idea. And then they're worried about what this is going to do to their credit. But somebody told me if you just send them something every month, that they'll accept that. Is that true?
So bills are technically something that you can negotiate them. Okay, so they're not written in stone. It's not like if I went and bought a tire, the price of the tire is the price of the tire. So medical
Right.
bills can be negotiated. Now, depending on obviously the size of the bill and how much you're paying, there are times when maybe they aren't going to pursue collections. But if you have a $200,000 bill and you're paying $50 a month, there's a good chance you're going to turn that over to a collection agency, and you will start getting those collection efforts. Yeah, there's no law saying, hey, pay $1 and they're not allowed to collect that. There's no law that exists like that.
Jackie, when should an individual come in to see you?
Well, there's two really important times. If they've had an emergency, they get that surprise bill. They weren't expecting to get that medical bill. Yeah, pick up the phone and call. If you know that you don't have insurance, your insurance is going to cover it, and you want to negotiate that rate up front, then that's also a good time to call, because there's a couple of things that go into it. Obviously, negotiating that price and making sure the contract is saying what you're agreeing to, right? That there's no, there's not gonna be a surprise bill afterwards. And I handle this all the time, where we have, they give us an estimate of what the cost is going to be, and then they change it, right, without anybody knowing. And then they try to tell you, oh, well, you should have been aware of this. One of the other things to really be concerned about too is we're really seeing a shift with like hospitals using technology, which is great, but it's a great way for them to bill. And you'll start, if you log in, right? They always give you like that client patient portal. You log in, they'll slip bills in there, or they'll slip extra charges, and they'll say, well, you should have known, it was in there. But meanwhile, it was never part of the discussion. So that's where we can kind of come in and make sure everything's in writing and you know what you're going to be responsible for. And again, unforeseen emergency crops up, that's a different story. We're not, that may happen. But for the routine procedures, what you know that you're going to be going in for, we can help you negotiate that and make sure that is honored by the provider.
You're telling me that you can go in and negotiate their rates before surgery or anything's done.
That's correct.
And
absolutely.
It's definitely going to be lower because you're negotiating it.
Yeah, we have the ability to know what the true cost of care is going to be. And so we can know the ballpark of what that amount for that procedure should be. And that way we can negotiate that. And again, and make sure too that there's not going to be any surprise billing on the backside after that procedure when you're trying to recover.
Wow. People listening tonight just have to be so amazed. You're finding out you can go in and negotiate your bill. And we really kind of got away from the employer, but you can really save companies a lot of money by looking at what they're paying out in insurance.
So there's just, there's a sort of the cheat sheet, if you will. There's a 20% in fraud, waste, and abuse in every single bill. So if you look at what you're paying in premiums, and if we can save you 20%, for a lot of companies, that's a significant amount. Just without even thinking, knowing that we can come in and save you 20%, more often it's more like 40, 50, 60%.
Unbelievable. So Jackie, give everybody your phone number.
Yeah, it's 754-333-0313.
And your website address?
It's www.gradylegal.com.
Okay. One more time with the phone number. Please, folks, write this down. I am telling you, I'm doing you a favor by telling you this. Give everybody the phone number one more time.
Yes, 754-333-0313. You call and we'll get you set up for a free 15-minute phone consultation.
I love it. Thank you, Jackie, so much, and have a wonderful Christmas. Take care, and we're going to be back with you again next week with more experts on the Ask the Expo. Everybody, have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in today to Ask the Experts, sponsored by board-certified family law attorney Tina Lewert of Lewert Law, LLC. Join host Steve-O again next Thursday for more interviews with the top experts in South Florida in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement on Ask the Experts.